today is something that's sort of normal for us inside the culture of our studio, but when it comes time to set up your own studio, some of this that may seem natural and doesn't come so easily to you when you're actually in your own studio. So I'm often asked, how is it that I can make changes quickly in a person, and those changes actually not be flash in the pan, it's something that will last. And so we're going to start, we've been talking about our pyramids, so we're going to just start talking about some of these pyramids and what they can do to help us as far as teachers are concerned. So what we're going to do is start talking about the pyramid, that my terrible looking pyramid. My terrible pyramid of culture.
It looks like a Star Trek badge. It's fine.
So, I know. A pyramid of...
That's a Starfleet badge, actually.
Let's just talk about emotional psyche of your singer and yourself. What's the first thing emotionally that you want them to be okay doing in your studio?
Playing. Not
Okay.
being able to sing.
Experimentation.
Yes. Opening their mouth at all.
Well, let me ask you this question. Experimentation means doing something that's kind of scary for some people. They walk in the door the very first day. They don't know you from Adam's house cat. Do you think they're going to feel okay to experiment?
Depends on their personality.
Of course. But what is it that you have to instill in them first in order to get them to feel free enough and safe enough to experiment?
Trust and control.
Trust. You have to create in your studio an environment of trust. Now, that's easier said than done.
Thanks.
Where does trust start for you? How are you going to build trust in your singers?
I've been experimenting this week with empathy and just kind of like you said, like lowering your own personal energy and any anxiety that comes, and just being open to whatever they're feeling themselves.
Exactly. And that starts with something that is not always innate in us. Because what she's talking about is something I teach, which is how to modulate your energy depending on how the energy of this person is that's sitting in front of you. If you have someone that you're reading is anxiety-ridden, if you are always, like me, really high energy, that person comes in, my high energy is excitement, theirs is anxiety, but empathetically to that person it reads the same. They feel my energy is excitement, but they're anxiety-ridden, so my excitement translates to anxiety to them. It doesn't matter that I know that it's excitement. It's an energy level that they're reading and feeling empathetically.
Right.
So I then have to modulate my own energy. But it starts even deeper than that. It starts with the culture of the voice teacher.
Mm-hmm.
We leave this institution, newly minted whatever, as we walk into the voice studio, and the first thought in our head is, I know what I'm doing. Because I have this piece of paper on the wall that says, I'm totally and completely qualified to be in this room. And in comes Harlan Mack. All full of fun. And you start vocalizing him and he looks like this. And you look at that piece of paper and you say, but I'm the Pope of voice teaching. You have to kiss the ring. What's wrong with this? And he's going, he doesn't know you're the Pope. He's waiting to see what you're going to do. But he's not just what you're going to do. He wants to know if you're going to create an environment for him to do it. And you have thoughts like this. Well, I'm the professional. He ought to know what he should listen to me. That takes an ego-based thing that's at the center of you and turns it into something that empathetically is very negative. So part of it starts in the culture of the voice teacher. You have to rid yourself of the expectation that you are always going to be right and that you are the expert. Yes, you've had a lot of school.
Amen.
But the minute you sit yourself in the middle of the throne and say, come in to me and get all of the information and kiss the ring, you set yourself up inside yourself for insecurity and failure if they don't receive the information like you think they ought to receive it.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? Come on in, Katie. Guess what happens in that moment of trust building? You empathetically start going, I go, this is not working. It worked for the past 12 students. Why is it not working? And then you start swirling around in there and your anxiety builds and that person's anxiety level rises in reaction to you. That's empathy at work. So basically talking about and dealing with your own model of what you think a voice teacher is a part of setting the culture. I was asked when I was in Colorado, this cute little guy says, what was the thing the biggest thing that happened to you that made you who you are today as a teacher and a singer? I said, I got over myself. I got over my concept of what a voice teacher needed to be. I was not going to be wearing scarves and sunglasses and bringing my tiny dog didn't come to work one time. But more importantly than that, I did not want to set myself up as the person for whom, if I were challenged in the voice studio, I would set up like concrete in the face of that challenge. So that then made, for me culturally, difficult students fun, because I wanted to figure it out. So creating a culture of trust means creating a safe environment. If you look at your student and you say, we're on this team together. This is not me coming in and bestowing golden nuggets of wisdom on you each week and then I go home. I give you something that I think might work and you try it as best as you receive it and I'll watch you. If you don't receive it like I think you should, don't panic. I'm still watching. And you're asking questions, and these are not questions to waste time. These are questions because you're trying to learn them, learn about them. You're trying to learn their learning style. How do they say things? What are they insecure about? Taking the time to do that creates an environment of trust. They will not experiment freely with their instrument, which, by the way, is inside of them and wholly personal. They're not going to experiment with that until they know that you and they are on the same team, and you don't expect them to bow to everything that comes out of your mouth. This is a two-way street. And you know, if you've been in the studio with me, you start getting something, I get excited, that creativity goes back and forth like this, and then I go home and come back in with something the next day. I don't come try to hit you with the same thing every week, because I want to see where you are. So the culture of trust. Then the culture of experimentation. That this creates this, which is kind of like being a little fearless. At the heart of this lies one big truth. What is your concept of the fragility or the strength of the body and the vocal instrument? It will completely impact that right there. If you treat the voice as a Fabergé egg, in your own practice, which means you practice tepidly, you don't try to find your boundaries. I'm not talking about beating your voice to death against a wall. But if you're careful and fearful in your experimentation with your own voice, then your concept when it comes to experimentation will be tied to fragility. And anytime any sensation, good or bad, arises in the body or the head, you will back away from it. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Singing is an athletic event. It comes with sensations. Some good, some bad, but how are you going to know? If every time you make a sensation happen, you back away from it and there's no sensation. You guys have seen it. How many singers have you seen? They're standing up there singing and this is what you see. Mm-hmm. And you know there's not one molecule happening from here down. They don't know if there is, but a lot of times they're not. And body identity also has a lot to do with that. But your own acknowledgement of whether you feel singing is fragile or fixed. Here's another thing. If you think that you can take a fixed concept and apply it to every person the same exact way, you're going to struggle. Mm-hmm. Case in point, Hillary Smith. We've been doing experimentation with engaging the lower abs and how we engage them either in contraction or flexion to gain more airspeed at the apex of support. Her body mass, when we did the thing that makes most of us crunch, when she did that thing, she actually opened up. Why? Because her body mass distribution, she didn't have any energy in her body, and when she did that, she actually went the direction you wanted to go. Had I been locked into my concept and not watching, I would have said, see, you felt the crunch, right? That was bad. But I saw and read in her when she did it that she actually opened up, and I went, okay, wait, let me figure out. Your ability to not lock into a concept so hard that you try to apply it to the same person, same voice type every time, same body type, same learning style every time, is going to, you've got to get away from that because that will frustrate you. Will keep you from doing what I posted on Facebook this week, worshiping at the altar of absolutes. Be careful. There are concepts that are scientific, and then there are concepts that are movable based on body types, learning styles, and all of that. But if you say it is always this and it is never this, be very, very careful, because someone or something is going to hit your door that blows that absolute out of the water. And then what will happen? When that happens, it will either cause you to refocus on the thing you thought was an absolute and reconsider it, or it will make you insecure about the whole entire world. It will rock on its axis. Oh my God, I have a doctorate and I can't rely on the absolutes. This is a physical instrument. The absolutes don't always apply. Now, there's science. Acoustics are acoustics, man. But the absolutes, you want to try to get away from them as much as possible. It also keeps you flexible and it keeps you observant in your own teaching. So, what do you guys see that I might not include in here as cultural important items that need to be in that pyramid? What kind of a culture do you want to create? And I'll tell you how that relates to the technique pyramid in a minute. What's important to you? What's important to you being in my studio? What makes you thrive?
The support of everybody else around me.
Colleague support, which comes from the culture of we want to be good people, which allows us to support one another, because it's not that we don't have confidence and a certain amount of healthy ego in our singing, but we're not so drawn to the ego that we have no compassion for others and cannot support each other. That's an empathy thing as well. What else?
I think there's an expectation, like students have to know your expectations of them so that they can deliver, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. You know how it makes sense? You are not going to be handing out fluffy bubbles of joy every day they hit the door, particularly if they want to do this for a living. You are going to at times have to, just like your children, say, okay, look, we need to have a chat. I love you with every ounce of my being. No, I love you too. I love you with every ounce of my being. But if you come in and there's a behavior pattern that I know is continuing that is destructive to you and your health and your well-being and your career, and I go, good job, chuck on the shoulder, send you on your way, then you think, this is great. And then the first time you hit an audition and they go, man, dude, you can't sing. And then I've let you down. In a sense, they will lose that trust in me because I was not able to give them the news they needed to hear in the right way, in the right time frame. Okay, so knowing how to modulate your energy, but also knowing how to try to guide people back in a path that they perhaps strayed from in such a way that it doesn't break their spirit. You don't want to lie to them. That's mean. That destroys trust. But you can give information and love them back, hopefully either into a place where they're doing what they need to be doing, or oftentimes you need loving them into another career, because many, many people will come your way that just don't have the skill set or the gift set to do this for a living. This business is hard. It's hard. And sometimes it is the best use of trust and love for you to say, these are your gifts, but I don't think you're going to be able to eat in this, so let's find something you can do. And that's a struggle, but that's something also that goes into the culture of your studio. And that factors into exactly what you said there. Anything else?
One thing I'm having trouble wording. At this point in my career, I would like to up the ante as far as like expectations. It goes back to expectations. Expecting a certain quality and refusing to accept anything less, and how to put that. I want that at the top of my pyramid, but it's hard to put that in a small.
Okay, then here's how you do it. Quality expectations tend to fall into two categories. A quality expectation of Michaela, could you step out there and tell them to lower the noise level just a smidge? An expectation of quality. I need for you to learn rep, because that's what the world is about. Therefore, you're going to learn 6 songs in these languages and these styles because that's what the business calls for. That's an expectation of quality that you can put on everyone based on their voice type, but that's something that could be a consistent expectation of quality. Right? You can put an expectation on practice, but that even has to be flexible because not everyone's attention span is the same. An expectation of quality that involves developing the voice and their benchmarks for development, that's where it gets more flexible. You cannot look at a 19-year-old dramatic soprano that you know one day in their 30s is going to be and expect them in the soubrette next door to develop at the same rate. You can't. Because it's a different animal. Physically, they take time to develop. But if your expectation of development benchmarks in the voice itself are all in lockstep with every voice type and every body type, then they're going to have trouble, and so are you. So there are certain expectations you can put on. My expectation of quality, I expect for your Fanny to be in your lesson, on time, and excited and ready to work, and we're going to sing for 50 minutes. I expect you to learn rep. If I tell you one week to come back in next week with Die Forelle, with all the notes and rhythms and the German intact, and I have spoken the German for you, and you come back next week and you can't read a quarter note on the page, you've not met that expectation. And I grade accordingly. But where this development growth in terms of the voice itself is, I try to look at the person and factor in, this is another thing. You have to not only factor in the differences in voice types and style, voice types and body types and all that, you must factor emotional growth, or lack thereof. How many of us in this room got into college and just went just like this, all the way through the degree, just emotionally like, wee! And I see a show of hands.
No surprise.
Yes, because the voice is housed in the body, the emotional development or crisis or whatever has an impact on that. Now, if you meet someone who's going through a crisis, you try to do what you can in that moment to help them keep moving, but get them through the crisis, or help them find ways to get through the crisis. That builds trust further. However, if you have someone who's a crisis a minute, you can still love them and say, don't be in crisis all the time, but if you're a crisis a minute, it's hard to be consistent in this field. And so if every day of your life is a soap opera and you can't settle yourself to focus enough to practice and make progress, you probably need to do something else and just sing for fun, because those constant crises get in the way of the vocal development. Does that answer your question? All right, now, what else? Anybody else want to add anything else before we try to combine these two? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm stealing Nikki's idea because we were talking about it earlier, but we were trying to come up with a way to describe, the desire and drive for personal excellence and responsibility, but versus competitiveness.
Yeah.
That starts in this. What do I tell you guys I want you to do?
Be good
Be
people.
good people first. Good people first. Good people, and that doesn't mean you walk around dropping violets all along the way. Yes, mic drop. It means at the core of your being, at the spirit level, and we don't all come with this, we have to work on it. Insecurity, if you don't deal with it, can manifest itself in ugly ways. Your concept of ego. I ask students, what do you like about your voice? They don't want to answer because their concept of ego is tied up in confidence. They're sort of interlinked in a negative way. There's a way to be confident from the core of being a good person that draws, you don't have to say a word. They're drawn into you because they don't feel crunchy around you, because you're just like, hey, I feel really good about this. And out of that confidence comes creativity, and creativity lets you experiment without fear of somebody listening and criticizing you, and that becomes a group dynamic. It's something that starts from the inside out, and it's because of emotional empathy that happens. If you are on a consistent basis, nobody expects you to have a great day every day, but if you are on a consistent basis acting out of a spirit of trying to be good to one another and good to yourself, that extends to your singing. It extends to your willingness to support one another when there's a crisis. It extends to your willingness to, when someone is standing over in the corner talking about another person, rather than you going over there going, oh, what happened? Yeah, let me get into that. You go over there and say, hey guys, let's come back over here and create and concentrate on this thing. You become a mentor in that case, and then you can be a mentor at any age. You don't have to be a graduate student to be a mentor. But if that's if that's your focus first, and then the other things will kind of naturally come out of that because of your willingness to support, create, extend love, extend mercy, those things all come out of that particular.
Nurture.
Okay, I have a really deep question. In how many places, this is not the question, but think about in schools across the nation, how many places are the doctoral vocal performance students going into each other's studios, listen to this, what am I doing wrong? Help me with this, what do you think? And getting the feedback that we give each other. And then the undergrads, they'll come in and we'll listen to them. And the way that we play with each other and bounce ideas off of each other, that has got to be unique.
Absolutely.
So how do we, as we go into the world, draw those kinds of students to us and not the other kind?
Starts with you. It starts with you. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're finding this in my studio, I feel like right now, just by having frequent meetings like this, in which I've made it a point to make sure that after everyone sings, we talk about the things that have gone really well, and it creates an environment like that. And now my students are doing that very thing. And I don't think, my students are the best people ever. I don't think it's because necessarily you're attracting good people as people realize they can be themselves, and most people are good.
Right. Yeah, and that tends to like over time. Now, I will tell you that I occasionally, someone will come into my studio and want to study, and I'll read in them that there's just a natural tendency to go towards something negative. Then I start to ask myself, is that something that I can mentor them out of, or is that something that's a trait that's so ingrained that in 4 years or 2 years or 5 years I can't? In that case, I tend to not take that person, because when they could be a powerhouse singer, but if that comes into a studio where this is our ethic and they can't be pulled away from that, it tends to be this negative little ball. It's like a cancer, like a little cancer. And that doesn't mean I condemn that person to that activity for the rest of their life, but they may not be mature enough in that time to accept mentorship from the outside, to come away from that knowing that they'll be a much more fulfilled person in the process. So I often consider those traits when I'm thinking about how much time they're going to spend with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if they're coming in for 2 years and they got issues and they're just all the time, I don't have enough time. That's to rework all of that and kind of help them out of that. But it starts with you. And that also extends to your own practice. You being willing to take that attitude into your own practice means that you are also good to yourself, which means when you're practicing, you are merciful in the way that you practice. Ezekiel sings Rigoletto last night, comes in today, he's like, why can't I sing as long today? Well, because you sang a lot of Rigoletto. So why don't you be merciful to yourself today? And Mark, I can't, I'm a machine. A singing machine.
There was one of those lessons.
Yes.
Like this.
And why you're going to meet your own students where they are on that day, which is crucial. And we're going to talk about that not this week, but if you are willing to put yourself aside, you can have a plan for them, technically and artistically, but you've got to meet them on that day. If they come in and you have a whole plan mapped out on your clipboard and they're just a bag of knots and craziness, you can hit them with all that stuff in the bag all you want. It's just going to bounce off like balls bouncing off a wall. I had a couple of times this week, a couple of people who came in and I could tell when we started working, they were insecure about something that did not come into their practice. And as I started digging into that thing, anxiety started knotting up. And guess what? There is a point at which the anxiety levels rise and you can't bring them back.
Yes.
At that point, the lesson is over. The lesson is over. You could be the best teacher on the planet. It does not matter. Nothing can get in to this or this when they're in an anxiety storm. Am I right, Michaela?
Me?
Yeah,
Say hi, girl.
yeah. You can come way out of that, but you have walked through that experience.
Yes.
And trying to mentally control something, and when it didn't go quite exactly as you planned, you started analyzing, and then your anxiety was and then you couldn't receive it.
Right. But like that meditation instead, it's a different world, I have to say.
Yeah. And she's come out of that. She had the ability to come out of that. However, if I had an agenda that I wanted to tick certain things off my list and I just kept hammering at her, I'd chip away at this.
The trust, yeah.
You chip away at that. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Kind of bouncing off of that idea? Because I've experienced this in a couple of my students recently. So, when you see that it's heading to that point, how do you field it, turn it so that you can end on a good note?
Depends on the student and what I know about them. But for instance, one student this week, I dismissed the pianist. I talked with the student about preparation, being adequately prepared in terms of what the expectation is of the world. I approached her as a professional, saying this is the expectation, not just because I expect it, but you need to pay your rent with your music, so you need to do these things so you don't have these meltdowns. Then I sat her on the bolster, I put my arms on her shoulders, and I said, you know at the heart of this that I love you and want the best for you, all right? But these are the things I need you to understand. And then I said, I'm going to leave you in the studio. And I turned on all my oily smells. I left on the bolster and I said, I want you to sit here and do your breathing until you feel your mind come back to center, and then get up and leave. You take your time. And I cut out the lights and I left, and I removed all stimulus from the room and left her there to self-calm, because that is at the center of it. You guys have to learn how to self-calm when the anxiety storm happens. You as teachers can give them the tools to do that, but that is an important part of vocal training, is how are you going to self-calm and recenter when you're on stage in an active thing like performing. Absolutely. And there are ways to do it. You just have to have a way to do it. Okay, now let's move quickly so we can talk about other things. When you're talking about your pyramid of technique, you got to think about some things. So you know that the pyramids work. Whatever is on the bottom, anything that you put above that cannot, in its philosophy or in its goals or in its process, defeat what's below it. This is pretty easy to see here. But in your technique pyramid, what is something that you think is important for you to instill in your students when they first hit your studio? They know how to sing on pitch. Well, what's the first thing you want to put into them, technically?
Body awareness.
Body awareness. Okay. Anybody else?
Vowels.
But that's going to be up here. But yeah, that is important. Body and breath.
Body and breath.
Body and breath. Because one, yes.
Slash posture, but I guess that's body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is why we use the bolster, because it's the fastest way to bring an awareness into your body.
Amen.
Of the difference between muscular tension and air pressure. If you stand up to sing, and every time you stand up to sing, you do this, you are going to feel pressure in your neck.
Me too.
If this is your only frame of reference for singing, that's going to feel like support unless you're hurt. Because resonance pressure, and this, in the heat of battle, it's all pressure, man. In the heat of battle, it's all pressure. And so putting them on the bolster gives them a different body awareness and breath awareness that they may not have while standing up and posturing and doing crazy things like that. What's the next thing? Once they have that, what do you want them to know how to do?
I would say vowels.
Vowels. Vowels. So we'll make it language, okay, to bring it in. So not just vowels, but language as a whole. The quality of language. What's above that?
Emotion. Emotion.
Could be. Let's put it in.
Are we including resonance and under language?
Can. It's your pyramid. So I said this last time we met. It's not my job to teach you to say what I say. That's not teaching you how to solve problems and develop your own teaching language. I'm teaching you some skills to allow you to develop your own. And that starts with this. Is there anything, don't think about the broad category, but is there anything, if this is your beginning awareness in the first year, you want them to get really aware of this, and we move to language, and you begin to model, is there anything in that modeling that might defeat a decent awareness of this?
You just want this.
Yep.
I put them on the bolster, I want to give them body and breath awareness, and the very first thing I do is not that my words didn't say, I want you to do this and this and this. My words may have been saying that, but my modeling brought about a posture that basically negated what I know I'm going to do right here.
Right.
I don't have to reconsider what my mouth is saying, I have to reconsider my modeling, or perhaps the method with which I teach it. If I want to teach someone laryngeal stability, which by the way, when you work on this in phonation, the larynx tends to be stable, because if you're not pulling and hooking like this tends to be more stable.
Yep.
But if my concept of laryngeal stability is, what I want you to do is breathe in and drop the larynx as low as you can, and you have to keep it there. stability, the concept, I mean, the idea of laryngeal stability is swell, it's cool. My method for teaching it, not just my modeling, but my method for teaching it, which is the larynx goes down and it stays down. Works against anatomy. Your larynx does not have to shoot out of your nose as you sing higher, but it will come up some as you sing higher notes. If you are going to belt, you are not belting unless the larynx comes up and tilts forward a little bit. That's how you make belting. So if your concept approach is that, then it's going to work against that. You have to reconsider how you teach it. Make sense? Anybody else have anything else they want to put on that pyramid before we make them do this?
What is that?
I'm going to show you.
I think
Right.
all the little fun things, the skills, the trills, the portamento.
They're extended techniques.
techniques.
Yeah, extended techniques. When I first started teaching this in pedagogy, I used to define it like this. Freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. That was until I figured out how to take the concepts from this and put them on this, both as my teaching and in my own singing. The minute I took what I said was gospel for me over here and applied it to this, I got better faster. And suddenly extended techniques for me, and I just started doing it with my students. And suddenly the trill could happen in a sophomore, Sarah's temple. So ask yourself this in your contemplation this morning, and I want it to start in your singing first. How many times do you act with this as your guide in your practice? Loaded question.
Not as much as I probably should.
Yep. Yeah. You have it in the studio. Why don't you feel stable enough and secure enough to apply it to your own practice? You walk in there, it's just you in the room.
That's the scariest time.
Yeah.
That's why. Yep.
You don't have instant error detection. You have your own error, but you don't have somebody else saying good or bad.
Kevin brings up a great point, because it's incumbent upon you to teach your singers and you to feel more than you hear. No, hypothetically, I would pay for this marker. You listen so much sometimes to your own voice in the act of phonation. It's a wonder you can be in the moment at all. Creative energy is energy that loops out of you. Analysis loops in. And analysis and fear behave the same way. It's energy that loops back into you like this. How can you be organic and in the moment with your vocal technique and your character if you're analyzing it as you do it?
We're only 5 minutes behind.
Yes. You have to learn to feel. This has been Bookie's big journey. And several of you in here, there is the getting over that she has beautiful quality to her voice, but in her own practice and urging herself along, it's a struggle to feel sometimes because it scares you.
Yep.
Why does it scare you?
I think it's going back to, I don't want to feel it because feeling it feels like tension, but it's not tension, but I can't tell the difference. And so it's scary.
Because your concept.
Yeah.
We label ourselves. We have tapes that run through our head, and we behave in the practice room with the tapes that run in our head. Okay? It all goes back to this right here, too. Yeah. And that's part of your journey. Nobody expected you to come in and just drop this bag at the door and say, I'm here. I'm no longer scared. No, this is inside of you. It's inherent to who you are. You have to work through it. But you have to treat yourself with these tools just like I do. You have to that's showing yourself mercy as you do things. Yeah.
So when you're working with a student and trying to determine whether they're hearing or feeling, is this sort of like in the acting concept where they're hearing and judging versus feeling and doing?
Yes.
Is that really what you're watching for and feeling for?
Yes, because I spend a lot of time in these workshops trying to teach singing actors, both the operatic and musical theater variety, how to remain in the moment and not upset the technique. And so key at that is a lot of this right here. The breath in singing, as a singing actor, cannot have a heavy-duty sense of method acting to it. You cannot be angry and have angry breath and expect yourself to be able to sing for 2 hours. Right? Something else in your concept of the character. Oil, anyone? Something else in your concept of the character has to dictate who you are in the moment, and something has to be stable underneath that. What you are saying, the color, the inflection, the expression, the subtext, and how it emerges on your body is who you are in the moment. The breath cannot have a heavy-duty level of choreography. Mm-hmm. But this starts in the practice room with how many times you leave the moment to do something with the voice. You're totally in the moment. Say, here I am, and here I am, and now I'm going to place the note. Here I am, my teacher said applaud you, here I am. Because you check into a particular technical concept. Now, how can you get over this? Therapy, medicine? No.
Drugs. Put it in something musical.
You can't. Become an actor, but there's something else. This
Connects
huge.
the two.
This is huge. Yeah, you connect the two, but this is huge in the cultural thing. You have to understand that once something is committed to muscle memory, leave it to muscle memory and think about something else that makes that thing happen, or re-describe the physical sensation of technique for emotive. But you cannot engage new muscle memory while on the stage. Forget it. If you haven't put it into the practice room and on your rehearsals, it's not going to suddenly pop out in my head if you put it on. But why do you want to micromanage your muscle memory? It's called muscle memory. If I had to think about my heart beating all day, I would be dead by now, because I can't manage my heartbeat. I can't manage my breathing, but I can trust that it's going to happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is something I wanted to ask. And I sure, again, it depends on the student and the personality type of a human being, but how do you teach your students to practice? Because I know that for me, I've learned how to practice in my late 20s, and I spent almost 10 years. Practice as an undergrad was memorizing my music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I go and I warm up, so I was ready to sing, and then I would sing my song over and over and over again, and just, try to sound awesome. Trying to sound awesome was also a different.
Awesome was a goal.
And,
For the people listening outside the room.
Yes.
Yeah, 21-year-old Pete could not figure out that, you could break it down into phrases and breathe through it, or anything like that. It was always all it had to do with was just singing through the rep.
Right. Basically, you learn it by just going through.
Yeah.
All right. As you grow, this changes, but basically I have two concepts for practice. There's active practice and there's passive practice. Active practice means you're actually in the room phonating something, whether it's a concept of technique or a concept of vocal energy or artistry or what language or whatever. That's the active part. Passive means that you are sitting at home, speaking your language, or in the practice room, not fully engaged vocally, speaking your language for stress, inflection, whatever. You're studying your translations so that you don't have to translate as you do it, but the word becomes what it means in the other language for you in your mind. Rhythmic things, all those things can be done passively. When you're talking about active practice and voice building, which is scale work, of course it starts with that body and breath awareness, but you must ask yourself, what is your physical and mental attention span? If you go to the practice room and you give yourself one goal and two physical tools, and you're going to concentrate on those physical tools and not try to do anything else, how long is it before your mind starts to wander? If it's 10 minutes, then it's 10 minutes long. But if you can stay focused physically on the two tools, the goal is in your head. You're not thinking about the goal, you're thinking about the two tools or the one tool. If you can stay engaged for 10 minutes physically on that one tool, then that is worth more to your muscle memory than an hour. Once you get past that 10-minute limit and your mind starts to wander, once again, it's like throwing the balls against the wall. They're bouncing off, and you get frustrated. So you guys give yourselves unattainable goals, and your students as well. 3 10-minute sessions of focused physical time is worth more than 3 hours of unfocused. And that's the same thing with singing. When you start learning rep with rep, when you start learning rep, you've got to have a pyramid sort of tier system for yourself that works for you. If you are rhythmically insecure but melodically strong, start with a rhythm. If you are language insecure, start with the language, speak it first, then get it into the rhythm, then get it in the melody. Then physicalize the rep with one physical concept, not 10. Don't try to do stress and color and crescendo and decrescendo, because when you're working all those things at one time, the mind keeps visiting like this and it's nowhere in the awareness of your body. Some of those things, when you concentrate on one physical sensation, can stabilize and make 3 things happen. And that's the other part of practice, is learning how to compress your ideas. 10 physical concepts, you think about them, you know them from being in pedagogy or studio or whatever. You choose 1 or 2 physical phenomena that make those 10 things happen. That's compressing your ideas. That's also what you're doing in teaching. By reading people and knowing about your own practice, reading people, your knowledge of anatomy and acoustics, all of those things come together in order for you to find ways to take 10 technical, 5 technical concepts and create one thing that does all 5. Mm-hmm. That's how they get better faster. Mm-hmm. And that starts in your own practice as well. What time is it?
That's awesome.
3:48. Okay, so I went over, but I want to take some time. So I know that you guys have been visiting some things this week in class and your own practice and your own teaching. So we have a few minutes to entertain either some discussion or questions about things you've encountered yourself.
I have one experience I want to share.
Yes.
So last Friday, I sang a concert in Columbia, Annabelle concert. It was in this old room that was a converted church like on Main Street. It used to be a department store. Dead as a doornail, and I was hoarse and halfway sick. So couldn't hear myself, and I said, okay, what we gonna do? We gonna just trust that it's there, and we're gonna put the air in. Mm-hmm. And in my head, it sounded like the most horrible thing I had ever sung in my life for an hour, and when I listened to their video, it was actually some of the best singing that I think I've consistently done. Because I got in those practice rooms.
The Wanger units, you guys are supposed to do that.
And worked it and realized, okay, I just have to not feel and not hear. I just have to trust that it's there.
Mm-hmm. So if you were not here, what we did was I told you to go in the Wanger units, find one physical phenomenon to focus on, set it on the livest acoustic, the wettest acoustic you could do, and sing in that. Only focusing on the phenomenon, physical phenomenon, not the acoustic. It's going to hit you. Then gradually deaden the acoustic, still feeling for the one physical thing you said you would feel for. As the room gets deader, you're not going to get as much feedback. But if you can stay in that physical thing, when you record yourself, you won't hear a degradation of your voice or ring, because you're going to the consistent thing you know you can feel, rather than the ever-changing thing that you can hear.
And I couldn't feel anything like any sensation, so the only thing that I had to go to was the stretch.
Yep.
For that.
You stretch your body.
That was the only thing
Yeah, that's very good.
It was interesting.
Yeah, also. Somebody else? Yeah.
I have something, just another experience about my student who talks like this. Everything's really hard up here. Building the trust in the relationship, and me experimenting with bringing my own personal energy down. She told me today, she's like, got her on the bolster, started vocalizing just long tones, dropped that larynx. It was full and rich and beautiful and easy and focused. And she said, well, it feels really low. That's not feminine, is it? And I was like, bingo, nail on the head. But what a sweetheart. But, to get that trust for her to say, I don't feel comfortable with my larynx dropped, to make a resonant sound, because I think it's unfeminine. Mm-hmm. And for her, that's probably be the hitting the nail on the head is, I said, honey, you're a woman. You're going to be feminine no matter what you do. That's true. And so I think that hopefully that will turn her mindset. But that didn't happen. That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been able to drop my energy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you learned that this week, because all of you in this room start new tunes and you start labeling the sound expectations.
Yes.
So sister's going singing Addio del Passato, and she's got this great shiny top. She goes, she got her singing, and I said, what's your sound expectation for this aria? And she went, dark. I said, how does Verdi make it dark? Sets it in the middle voice. How about we just let Verdi do his job and you just sing with Michelle's voice and see what happens? You guys try to put sound expectations that oftentimes cause you to mimic things, change things, instead of looking at the music and saying, what has the composer done to accomplish what I'm hearing on all these recordings, and why don't I let the composer do the talking I see in my own voice? Tessitura changes are going to do some of that for you, and that's very helpful. We tend to put labels on ourselves.
Yeah, that changed my whole mind.
There's another thing too about that whole modulation of energy. If I have someone who every time they sing stands like this, I'm going to modulate my posture around them as well. Because that's a physical empathy point. And I also use the counter pressure and things like that. But if they're standing like this or they're standing like this, I'm going to bring myself as I walk up, talk to them, into the position that I want them to feel and be in. That's the other reason why I do things like I'll do these tandem things where I stand in front of you and I won't sing, but I'll just breathe in with you. And you'll react to that. That's another part of that. And that's also, by the way, how you make changes very quickly in a masterclass situation. Your ability to make changes in a short order of time with people you've never met before is reading them and modulating not only your own energy, but your body posture and that sort of thing. And they start going to that. So it's not miraculous. It's just how you are open enough and willing enough to use your own senses and your own knowledge of what you've been doing in your own practice. Yes.
Is there a way, sometimes I find when I'm trying to empathetically relate to my students, I'm so involved in my own body still. Is there a way to practice feeling what they're feeling instead of putting your own expectations of what you want the sound to sound like?
Yes, it's a very good way to do that, because when we start thinking about our own body reactions, the mind starts analyzing. What you want to do is just feel, stare at them, watch them, don't think. Just feel. Because if they're in the middle of singing and all of a sudden they go, you just sit there on zone, you just go. I mean, you're going to feel it start to do this. David Walker did this today and this week in choir. I asked him to observe, because he's going to be a choral director, using his empathy. And he said he was watching somebody, and he said every time he went for the same note, he was just watching him, he wasn't doing anything. And every time he went for the same note, he would do this. And he said, I left my mind blank. I remember when this summer when we were talking to Corey, and I said the scariest thing to do when you go into a voice lesson as a teacher is to clear your mind. Don't think about what you're going to say when you start vocalizing them. Clear your mind. And the reason you're clearing your mind is because you're gauging your body's reactions to what they're doing. That's where your empathy starts. 9 times out of 10, where your body reacts is exactly where their problems are. It's just that accurate. That's also how you can make changes quickly. All right, anybody else want to operate? Yes, ma'am.
This is just another little touch on the whole empathy thing. I sat in on the first 20 minutes of Michelle's lesson on Wednesday. And just because I will be honest, there were some things on Wednesday morning that weren't quite clicking in my lesson. I was getting a little frustrated because I wasn't able to I was getting too much in my head. I wasn't able to properly feel what was going on down here. So after sitting on Michelle's lesson and watching what she was doing on the bolster and watching you work with her, I remember I'm just like sitting there, and as she's rolling her shoulders, and I feel mine are going down, and like my chest is coming up. So I was able to go into the practice room later that day, and I applied some of these things, and I found that these things are clicking so much easier just by watching. Literally, just by watching and using that empathy can make such a difference.
And the way you said this is important, because you remember how I said don't lock yourself into concepts. It's like square blocks and square holes. We'll do something, and you will go out and you will try to recreate it exactly as you did it in that lesson. I'm going to put the square block. And so you start ticking off your list. She told me to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and that is a form of analysis. You cannot be physically aware of what's going on, nor acoustically aware, if you are trying to make dot 1 happen and pull lever 2 and put square block and square hole 3. So even your own method, that factors into your practice. And there will be some, because we're not going to talk about this week. We'll get into learning styles and how you recognize that, and how you can question and watch to kind of get an idea of the learning style, and how that impacts your teaching. But you will have people that want to learn about the cause immediately. Please draw me a diagram and get your protractor out and your slide rule, and off we go. And then there are going to be some that just want to feel it. Can I just feel it? Don't tell me how it is, just let me feel it. The feelers tend to be, I know. But you can be equally effective with both if you're reading them physically. Because what that means is, if I have somebody who wants to know exactly how the square peg fits in the square hole, then what I've got to do is take one physical concept that makes that thing happen and make them do it again and again until they physicalize it. And then on the back side I say, now, this is why that happens. And that's still employing effect to cause teaching, which we're not going to talk about this week. We'll talk about next time, which is what we use largely. Anybody have anything else they want to offer for the good of the order?
I have a question. When you get to sometimes we work with students that are music majors that are, you know, they're a couple semesters in or a semester and a half in. And what if the ones like they are the ones that have lots of emergencies or that just always have issues and reasons why they can't, and you are trying to mentor? How do you go about balancing that effective mentorship with then also you have to meet these expectations? And
They're
approaching
non-majors or majors?
Majors.
If they're majors, then you've got to immediately, very quickly, get them on some self-calming things, so no matter what's swirling in the hall, the minute they enter the sanctuary, the practice room, or the studio, it becomes a calming environment first and a creative environment second. Okay? Analysis and fear, that's going to feed into that tendency to be overreactive to every little and big thing in your life. So when they come in, it's creating calm and then creating a creative environment for them. And that actually has a tendency to settle the autonomic nervous system's response rate. All these things we do even though they're active, tend to settle the blood pressure, which settles the brain. Once then they're focused on that, then you can take one thing at a time and move towards your goals. Nobody said you had to move towards your goals at the rate of 90 miles an hour. If you're moving towards your goals at the rate of 40 miles an hour and it's working, then it's progress. Nobody's putting a timeline on your career but you. There's plenty of people that had a successful career and didn't fall into it until they were in their 40s because they were trying to figure out how to sort out the struggles and the problems. Okay, now, here's what I want you to do before you leave. I want you to take your practice sessions, half of them this week, and don't think about what you want to do over here. I want you to think about applying this to your practice. Okay? What you want in the culture that we have in the studio, you apply those same mercies to your own practice this week. And I mean, you need to think it out, call it out. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Yay!